Who's Kyle Lopez? There's this one interview that Charles Manson did once while he was on trial, and he's asked, who are you? And he goes, who am I? And he looks around like, I'm nobody. So I kind of just like, what if that were my answer? My name is Kyle Lopez, and this is A Boy Like That for Boyhood. It's me, but it's not me. Kyle Lopez is an alter ego, I guess, in that I've never really felt very much like a Kyle. I think most Kyles from like popular media, I mean, there's like Totally Kyle, and I think of like a jerk who's like blonde and surfs. And I've never really felt very much like that at all. I guess I've sort of reimagined what that name is, but yeah, Lyle is definitely, it's another side of me. It's a side that I relate to more than Kyle. So my family is Cuban. My father was born in Cuba. He came to the United States when he was 3. And then my mom was born here, and they both grew up in New Jersey, so we're a nice Jersey-Cuban family. I'm of mixed heritage. My mom is what you would call mulatta in Cuba, so she's mixed race, and as is most of my family. And then my father is Afro-Cuban, so that just results in whatever all of this is. I went to Virginia for college. I went to William and Mary, which is a small liberal arts college in Williamsburg, Virginia. It's super old, and it's very into how old it is. That's like its whole selling point, is like, we're a traditional school from colonial times, and we love how old we are, and all the statues, and there are sheep and colonial men churning butter. Like, it's very that. And like, I don't really vibe with that necessarily, so I wasn't there for that. I was there because of like, there were good opportunities for me as someone who's into the humanities, and I just wanted to change from here. So while I was there, I studied English, and I self-designed a major called social exclusion, which I had originally called marginalized community studies, but that felt a little wordy. But essentially what I did was, I was looking at the way that marginalization happens in society and what that looks like structurally, and through lenses of like systemic oppression and all that. So it was a lot of poli-sci and gender studies. Linguistics was a big part of it, Africana studies, and a couple other different disciplines. A lot of environmental stuff too. Environmental justice is a big deal for me, so yeah, a little bit of a jump off, I guess. What drives me to write poetry is, I don't know, it's the, what I like about poetry is that there's space to say a lot in a page or so. I think I personally can take a lot more from a one-page poem than I can from many pages of some fiction. It really depends. I think with poetry, you really are challenged to give a whole lot, or give one very specific thing, or many things at once in not a lot of time. Of course, there's long form as well, but something about that medium really speaks to me and how I think and how I process things and make associations. So yeah, in terms of content, I write a lot about identity and about family, sexuality, and race, and racism, and all of those sorts of things. Like a lot having to do with violence and microaggression based on being a marginalized person. But I try to be light, and for me, like, I don't always have to be super heavy. How I prefer to deal with the world anyway. I'm pretty silly, I think. So I try to strike a balance between playful and serious, and all the while I'm trying to be really honest with my writing. And I think it's most important to me that people who relate to what I'm talking about enjoy my writing. Like, of course, like I want queer audiences and Black audiences and all those intersections and more to see me as someone that is relatable or is maybe speaking to something that's familiar. But other people who relate less, I've gotten feedback that they find my writing meaningful as well. So that's always encouraging to hear. So for whatever reason, I was something of a fixture at William and Mary. It's a small school, so if you're kind of different, you stick out. If you're really different, you really stick out. So if your standard William and Mary student is like straight, white, preppy, upper middle class white kid from Virginia who, is really into what everyone else is into and just kind of follows the crowd, then I didn't really relate to that at all. So I definitely had a lot to say, and not everyone was super into that. If your identifier is William and Mary, I feel sorry for you, because you really need to grow a personality and likes and interests that are not your school. But anyway, I definitely faced a good deal of harassment, both to mostly not so much online, some online, but also to my face, where I had people yell things at me and threaten me and stuff. I'm not afraid of anybody, and that's why I have a big mouth. Is like, my parents raised me to speak my mind and to stand up for what's right. So I've never been intimidated by anybody. I don't care if you're 6'3" in a frat and like buff. Like, I don't give a fuck. I'll mouth off to anybody who has a problem or with me. Like, that's just not cool. So that's all I gotta say.